Hey everyone, so in this section we're going to be talking all about sales compensations and salaries. We're going to dive deep into how much you actually get paid as a salesperson, especially when it comes to the different roles like sales development reps, account executives, and even management roles as well. So that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So sales compensations and salaries. They're going to depend varying on which country you live in, right? Whether it's US, UK, Canada, Asia, every country is a little different in terms of how strong their currency is. So definitely keep that in mind. But for this specific lessons, we are going to be covering the United States standards for sales compensations in 2021. Okay. Now, US is very similar to Canada and the UK. But however, for other countries, let's say if you're living in Asia or Africa or other places in Europe, the compensation might be completely different for the same exact job. So just keep that in mind. So for this example, we're going to use US standards. And how we're going to do this is we're going to be talking about salary plus commission, which equals on-target earnings, right? So in this section, you're going to see a lot of OTE, and that stands for on-target earnings, meaning all we're doing is adding your base salary combined with how much commission you would make if you hit 100% of your quota, and that gets your OTE. An example of that is you might get paid 45K base salary, you might get paid 30K commission if you hit 100% of your quota, and then that might come out to a 75K OTE. Another example, it could also be like a 50-50 split where 60K salary, 60K commission, 120 OTE, right? So there can be different splits. It could be 50-50, it could be 60-40. Every company is going to be different. And I'll show you some examples so you get a better feeling on how this works. Also, some roles you got to keep in mind that they are going to have uncapped commissions, right? Some have capped where there's a certain limit you can get paid. A lot of sales jobs are uncapped, meaning because if you're selling more stuff, you're helping them make more money. And if you're helping them make more money, then they win in the end, right? And also know that your OTE is generally going to be higher with more experience and more seniority. Meaning if you have more years of account executive experience, you're going to be paid a higher base salary and you're going to be paid a higher commission. Whereas if you just graduated from university, you're going to have a lower OTE, even if you're doing the same exact job. Okay. So how many years of experience definitely matters, and people pay for that, or they just kind of are forced to pay it. And like I said before, two people can literally be doing the same exact job, but the person who has more experience is going to get a higher compensation package. That's just how it works. So if you graduate from university or switching into sales, you're going to get paid less than your peers because you just haven't been in the game long enough. And so the examples that we're going to talk about in this section, we're going to give you a range, right? And we're going to give you a range of base salary, commission, and OTE. And the range is going to depend on which city you live in. So cities like San Francisco or New York are obviously going to pay higher than Austin, Texas because of the higher cost of living, right? So the more expensive the city you live in, the more you're going to get paid. So let's go ahead and talk about the SDRs first, right? Sales development rep compensation. On the left side, we're going to have different type of SDRs, whether it's newly graduated, you switched industries and you started your SDR career, or maybe you're a senior SDR. And over here, we have the base salary and the OTE, right? So OTE, again, is on-target earnings, which means it's your base salary combined with your commission, and that's what you can expect to make in 1 year, okay? So if you just recently graduated from university, let's say you're like 21, 20 years old, and you got a job, then a lot of times you're getting a base salary of 45K to 65K, which is actually pretty high. A lot of people, this is just their base salary for their normal job, right? But on top of that, you're going to get commission, right? So you might be making 65K to 90K a year, depending on, what the company is and the location of that company. But on the high end of the spectrum, let's say you're working in San Francisco and you're working at a really great company, you might be making 90K a year, your first year out of graduating. And that does happen. It's uncommon, but it does happen. If you're switching from a different industry, let's say you had like 5 years of experience doing something completely unrelated to sales and you want to get into sales, you're making kind of similar money to what a newly graduated person might make, but your OTE might be just slightly higher by 5K. Now, if you're a senior SDR, maybe you have a year of experience or something like that, you can expect a salary of 55K to 75K. So it's 10K higher than the newly grad. And then your OTE might be 75 to 100K. So is it possible to make six figures, $100,000 as a senior SDR? Absolutely. It is 100% possible to make six figures as an SDR, meaning your entire role is just to generate meetings and you can get paid a lot of money for doing that. And you might be wondering, why is it that an SDR is getting paid so much money when they're entry level. And the reason is because you are a revenue generating role. So your job is to generate meetings with potential customers, which will eventually close deals. So if you are just a wizard when it comes to generating these meetings, well, you also are a wizard of helping that company make a lot of money. And the company is going to be making a lot more money than they pay you. Just keep that in mind. So if they're paying you $100,000 a year, they're making way more money than this, right? Because it's just part of the piece of generating that revenue. So that's why SDRs get paid so much. And obviously, if you have no experience and you want to get paid a lot fast, SDR is one of the ways to go. Now let's talk about the account executive and account manager, which, when you go from an SDR and you want to move to the new role, then you might want to upgrade into an account executive or AM. So for an account executive, there's going to be 3 levels: the regular, SMB, mid-market, enterprise. So for regulars, account executives, like newly fresh account executives, your base salary is around 50 to 85K, and then your OTE is 110 to 170. So if you're working in, let's say, like Silicon Valley and you're an account executive, majority of the time you should be making over $100,000, right? And I find this to be extremely common. The only time it's not common is if you start as an account executive straight off the bat, you skip SDR and you just become an account executive after you graduate. You might be making less than this OTE, but if you had some sales experience before and you became an account executive, then yeah, you're definitely making more than 100K. Mid-market account executive, and this is for technology specifically, right? Other industries, they don't pay as well as technology sales, so just keep that in mind. So mid-market account executives, they're going to be making 70K to 115K base, and then 130 to 230 OTE for mid-market, right? So you could be making over 200K. Enterprise, you're selling to the big boys, you're selling the Fortune 500, things like that. 110K to 160K base, which is quite a lot. And then OTE, 200, 300K. But definitely, I have known people who have made more than 300K as an enterprise account executive. They could be making more than $500,000 if they exceed their quota, especially. So that's why I did the little plus here. It really just depends. I mean, some reps can get close to $1 million a year, right? At the really high level. So don't think it's just 300K. You can shoot really far, but obviously those are going to be the outliers, but it's definitely possible. So account executives, yeah, you're definitely making like a few $100s when you have like a few years of experience under your belt, assuming you're actually good at selling and you're working at a good company in a, competitive location. Now I put account manager here because I only want to talk about, just a general account manager. You could be making between 55 to 100K base salary and then 120 to 200K OTE. So account managers, even though their role doesn't have as much pressure as an account executive, they can be making quite a lot, right? You can kind of see that account managers can make similar money to a mid-market account executive. And the reason is because account managers are important, right? Because they keep the customer happy, they keep that revenue flowing. And if you don't have that revenue flowing, you're not making as much money. So account managers definitely get paid a lot and they have a lot less stress compared to account executives. Now let's go ahead and go into sales management, sales leadership, and their compensation. So if you become an SDR manager, you might be making 95K base to 160K base salary, OTE 140 to 200. So as an SDR manager, you're making bank just managing SDRs. Account executive manager, 95 to 160, and then 190 to 300. So quite an important role because you are managing all the individual contributors and helping people close deals. And you probably have a lot of closing experience to even get to this part. Now, if you want to move one level up to the director of sales, you're making between 110 to 180, and then OTE 220 to 360. Clearly quite a bit of money. And then if you are a VP of sales, 140 to 250, and then OTE 280 to 500K, right? Especially if you're working at like a well-funded startup or something like that, or maybe it's an enterprise company. Yeah, you definitely can be making $500,000, assuming you're pretty good at the role. But even if you're working at a smaller company, you could be making like 200, 300, 400K per year. And again, sales, it depends on, if you can actually sell products, right? If you cannot sell, then you're not going to be making this OTE, but obviously the base salary is really high. So if you think about like how someone would structure their life, if you can live off of your base salary and the OTE is bonus, then, you have a lot of money to play with and to invest and things like that. So some final thoughts when it comes to these compensation insights. As an SDR, you kind of are capped around the 100K mark. Around that, you want to probably upgrade into the SDR manager or a different role like account manager or account executive, because you don't want to stay as an SDR forever. It's probably the most grueling type of job out of all of them. Enterprise account executives probably usually will make the most income as an individual contributor because they're one of the most important. They're bringing in new business, so that's why they get paid the most. And many sales reps, they don't want to actually become managers, like people that manage people, they might just want to be individual contributors and move up the ladder, right? So they might want to be like small, medium business account executive, then they move up to mid-market, then they move up to enterprise account executive, and then maybe they're happy with that and they can continue that for the next 30 years of their life, right? And they could still be making like a few $100,000 every single year as an individual contributor. So don't think that, if you do a career in sales, you don't have to strive to be a director of sales or VP of sales. It's not necessary. If you find yourself really good at selling, actually doing the work, you can make a lot of money, just as much money as a director of sales by being an individual contributor. So just keep that in mind, right? You don't have to be a manager if you don't want to. Also, one of the fastest ways to increase your OTE and your on-target earnings and how much you make per year is to join another company after 1 or 2 years if you perform well. So here's a trick that I'll share with you, and a lot of people do this, and especially in the tech industry. They might join one company, stay there for 1 or 2 years, do really well, and then you use that momentum to find another job at another company that will pay you significantly more. And that's personally what I did when I went from Oracle to a startup, because they're willing to pay a lot of money, increase your salary, increase your commissions, increase your OTE just to hire you, because it's hard to hire good salespeople. And so what a lot of people do is, they do 1 or 2 years here, switch companies 1 or 2 years there, and then they switch again. And then every time they do that, they're going to significantly increase their OTE. So you do not have to stay at one company for 5-10 years. You can keep switching, and as long as you keep doing well, you're going to keep increasing the amount of money you get paid. And that's one of the fastest way to do it. You instantly get a boost in your base salary, boost in your commission. And also, if you really like that company you worked at, you can switch companies, get a higher, OTE, and then come back, and they're going to have to, they're forced to pay you even higher if they want to hire you again. And a lot of times they will, because you already have the culture, their products, and you've proven at selling. So they're going to have to be competitive to keep you or to rehire you again if that's what you want, right? So just know that if you do well and you switch different jobs and you keep increasing your OTE, you definitely create options for yourself. And great people, or great salespeople, are very challenging to find and hire. So that's why the salaries and the OTEs are so competitive for this market, especially for startups and large corporations. The thing is, like, a good salesperson makes a company money, right? And so that's why they want to hire as many of these people as possible. But the problem is that there's not that many great salespeople relative to how many bad salespeople there are in the world. And so if you're good at what you do, you basically have a lot of leverage to make a lot of money. You can work anywhere you want, you make hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and you are in the driver's seat, right? And so that's why I really stress the importance of performing really well at your job. Stay educated, practice what you learn, get in the game, and work hard. And when you do that, you create a lot of leverage for yourself. Then you can create a lot of different opportunities. And then you don't have to sell, bad products, but, you can work at the best companies because they're just throwing money to hire you. And that's really how it works if you're good at selling. And so with that said, that is everything we have to cover when it comes to the sales compensation model. That's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next.